Welcome to the Seeds of Gold, the 22nd edition of the Farm Clinic. And we are live from the National Coffee, that is Nakori, National Coffee, let me get the rights right. National Coffee Research Institute, Nakori. It's located deep in Mukono, my friend. My name is Andrew Chamagero. I'm on to our ones. Now listen, the conversations here, the trainings are very remarkable. We have seen a couple of conversations about the Seeds of Gold and what Nakori has been doing in the recent past, and today, the value addition they have made to coffee, but even to the other plants. It's a conversation we're going to be having. Join this conversation on Twitter and on YouTube and on Facebook. Be very sure the conversation is going to be much more exciting. But now, to make sense of all this, we cannot start without the blessings of the elders to give us, the helicopter view of what exactly we're here for. Allow me to welcome Dr. Geoffrey Alinitwe, who happens to be the Deputy Director here at Nakori. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
Good afternoon, viewers. You're welcome to the second round of Farm Clinic and Coffee and Cocoa Research. This time, we are much as we are talking about smart agriculture, but we want to spend much more time learning important aspects of coffee quality and value addition. This is in line with the government strategy of agro-industrialization, not forgetting that we need to increase domestic consumption, import substitution, and raise income for farmers. The DDG NARO, represented by DDG Dr. Kasim Salim, the representative of UCDA, Dr. Charo Gerard, and the coordinator for Feed the Future. We have important experts today, the trainers, including Dr. Kagezi and the chief breeder, Dr. Msori, the monitor publication team, ladies and gentlemen. It's important today for the coffee subsector and for the whole country to be reminded or to recognize coffee again as the major crop in this country. We need to recognize coffee not as a cash crop. Many people call it cash crop, looking at sugar cane, the cotton, that's historical. But coffee itself is a beverage. Viewers, it's important to know the difference between a cash crop and a beverage. A beverage is supposed to be either exported or sold locally for cash, and also processed to get a wide range of products that we can use. So that's why this time around we said we are going to emphasize value addition and coffee quality. That will be for export and domestic consumption, not leaving out agro-industrialization and import substitution. So today we have trainers who are going to illustrate quality and value addition of coffee. To have quality coffee on market, it's important to understand the market for coffee. We are talking about the European market. Recently, we want to exploit the Chinese market. I want to challenge you people involved in coffee subsector and coffee trade. If every Chinese person took 1 cup of coffee, just $5, the dream for the president of making this country a very economic potential for Africa, the powerful economy for Africa will be realized. We'll have the flyovers, we'll have trains, we'll have all these things achieved. But the trainers today are going to illustrate quality from planting through growth of the plants, and then go to post-harvest handling, and then later, as a climax, illustrate post-harvest handling, and then value addition. So the breeders this time are not breeding for coffee that is for a beverage. They are categorizing coffee based on the products. We will have coffee for beverage. We are thinking of having coffee for industrial use. We have coffee oil that is a potent anti-cancer product. Coffee oil can be used in cosmetic industry, and coffee oil can be used in health for medical purposes. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, look at every aspect of increasing the quality of coffee. That increase is about 20% of the gain that you get in coffee. Just as my last word today, Germany, Italy, they get much more money from coffee exports. And this is because they add value to the coffee. Today, I was reviewing the value chain involved in coffee. If you look at 1 kilogram of coffee, that the cost is around $2. 3 kilograms of coffee that will give you 1 kilogram of roasted coffee will give you $27. When you look at it, it's like the farmer gets nothing from our coffee. If we process our coffee, it will mean that we need to get the value that we realize from coffee right now times around 10 times. Then that will be the value that we get. So I encourage everyone involved in coffee production, everyone involved in budgeting and financing and investment, to think about investing in coffee and making coffee a major crop more competitive than gold. That's why here at the Institute we call coffee the golden crop, the golden bean that can revolutionize agriculture in this country. My last word is, a day started with a cup of coffee is a shiny day, is a beautiful day. Enjoy the trading today, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Thank you so much. That is Mr. Geoffrey Alinaitwe, the director, Nakori. Well, he makes it much more clear. We all meet for a cup of coffee, not for a cup of beer or a bottle of beer. So it is a golden bean indeed. We need to tap into that. Allow me invite Mr. Sadiq Kasim. This is the Deputy Director General of NARO, to equally give us a few words before we dive into the big aspects of today. Director?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, so much for this event and welcoming me to have a word with the viewers. I want to welcome viewers and thank viewers. At NARO, we are concerned of one thing, which my director has said, productivity. If we think our economy in the country is slightly low, what is the biggest one single issue is about productivity. So NARO attempts to address the issue of productivity in 3 different ways. One, by trying to put traits in various crops, including coffee, traits of high yield. 2, NARO tries to put in traits of resilience to diseases, pests, drought, and that kind of thing. NARO also now tries to put traits of improving quality. Those ones we call them specialty traits. So we think that if we avail technologies that are high yielding, resilient, and of speciality, of quality, communities are able and should be able to produce them consistently or sustainably, and that will guarantee market. If you can produce things of high quality, sustainably, you already achieve a market. And once you achieve a market for product, then you should have been able to conquer poverty and hunger in this part of the country. So in that regard, I want to thank all our partners present with us. We have our colleague Gerald Kialo from UCDA, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, with us. We have Abdallah Kagua from the Feed the Future program, who is supporting NARO seriously in terms of commercializing our technologies, putting the technologies available as we transit them towards industrialization of this country in terms of the agriculture sector. We have our serious partners, which are very, very strategic, including you, the people from the various, from the Nation Media Group, especially the Monitor Publications and the NTV. We thank you. We have the serious partners you have seen with us here, the Bank of Uganda. We have the Chinese Embassy with us. We have Stanbic Bank. We have NSSF. For viewers, take these as strategic partners. They are the people who can take the value chains for us to achieve those 4 things I say: the productivity, the quality, the consistency. All these can be catalyzed with the funding, funds. And these people that I've mentioned have potential avail us the resources that can take up these value chains up. As NARO, we are proud and we take this partnership very strategic. So we want our trainers the staff from NARO and probably maybe from UCD and other partners to precisely take this session to train and put a little bit of knowledge and skill in our viewers. I thank you very much. Regards from my Director General of NARO, Dr. Ambrose Agona. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, there you have it. It's still a great conversation. Keywords from the great men there. It's the productivity. We all need to get involved in the value chain. Now we have started this conversation. If you're watching from around the globe or wherever you're watching from, it's a challenge for you to get a pen and a paper. We are training and we're doing this virtually from your side. So allow me now to get down to the trainers as this conversation takes another trend. Get yourself a pen and a book, and then we start this conversation. I'm going to start with Dr. Pasco. Dr. Pasco Musoli here is going to explain a couple of things here. We're dealing with coffee, the golden bean, just to make sure that we actually make a lot of money. So, Doctor, the directors there were speaking from the strategic level. Things are very, global, regional. Now, me as a farmer, I need to understand, how do I engage my coffee from the farm and I add value?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Dear our viewers, you are all welcome to this narrow monitor group farm clinic. Andrew, you asked me a very pertinent question. That's exactly what we are going to deal with. Yes. With me, I have my colleagues all around here. They will introduce their names as their turn comes. But me, I'm Dr. Pasco Musoli. I'll be talking about the planting and the management of the coffee farm. Now, before I go to that, let us talk about the coffee to the farmers. We all know that we need money. And coffee is a strategic commodity for a household, because if you manage your one coffee tree very well, it can give you more than 10,000 shillings in a year. Well managed. One tree, well managed. But it can even go beyond. But the other uses of coffee in the family, can provide firewood. It can employ many other people in the family, but it is also a source of food. Yeah. So coffee is a very important thing, important commodity in the household. One of our colleagues will be telling you about some value-added products. It means that coffee is a very important item in the industrialization. It is good for confectionaries, it's good for the drinks, for the cosmetics, for the lotions. So that's why we need the coffee. It is ecologically important because when you look at where the coffee is grown, the environment is very nice. There are a lot of birds there. The temperatures are very moderated and so on. As a nation, coffee is our strategic commodity. It answers a lot of dollars, contributing 20% of the foreign currency that we need.
But do Ghanaians understand that, Doctor, from your perspective?
I think they have to, because they shouldn't take things for granted. Yeah. When we say grow coffee well, grow coffee in large quantities, they should know why the government says grow coffee well, and they should know why we, the technocrats, say grow coffee in large quantities. Because we need the foreign currency for anything that you need, the medicine, whatever, mention it, you need that kind of money. Now, because of that importance, the government has got good policies with a strategic objective of accelerating the production of good quality coffee. And with that good quality coffee, you must do certain things. You must have the market. You must also do the management of the coffee very well. My task tonight, we as colleagues here, we shall only give you the tips of how to produce high-yielding, good quality coffee. Sure. We shall not go to the other part of the policies and so on. Yes. That is for our bigger part. Yes.
I'm looking at a very simple farmer.
So, under this theme, we have composed this one as climate smart farming practices to produce good quality coffee. There are quite a series of them, but request the farmers and our dear listeners to be patient, so that they get them clearly. If they don't get them clearly, we have also given our telephone numbers. They can call back at a later time. One of the factors which you have to observe in order to produce good coffee, high yields, good coffee, is locating the coffee farm. Coffee, where to grow your coffee, where do you are going to plant the coffee, the site of the coffee. We have two species of coffee in this country. We have Robusta and Arabica. And these two species are adapted to different environmental conditions. Arabica is for the highlands, the Robusta is for the lowlands. And because of the variation of temperature in these conditions, we find that Arabica grows very well at relatively cooler temperatures, while Arabica grows well at relatively higher temperatures, and Robusta grows well at a little bit higher temperatures. Now, this must be taken into account when a farmer is going to ask for planting material of coffee. When you plan to grow coffee, know exactly what you are going to grow.
If you're in the hilly areas,
yes,
you go for Arabica.
You go for Arabica. Now, other aspects of it, once you have identified the location, then you must prepare the site. Normally, we recommend that you prepare the site far much in advance, 3 months.
Before.
Yes, 3 months, 6 months in advance. And you must prepare this site appropriately. We recommend that you plow the garden, you make the terraces, and after that, you go to the second step. The third step. The third step is marking the spots where you're going to plant coffee, the coffee trees. Sure. Now, that means you must know the distance between the coffee plants.
Oh, yeah.
The spacing of the coffee plants. The two species are spaced differently because one is a relatively bigger bush or bigger plant. Robusta coffee, which is a bigger, robust tree, is spaced at 3 meters by 3 meters, while the Arabica is spaced at 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters.
So there's a variation of 5.
There is a variation of 0.5. It is good because we also depends on other factors. Apart from the robustness of the species, there's also other factors which we shall mention later. Now, after marking the space, then you must dig the holes. Digging the holes is really a technical thing. Most farmers have been losing their planting materials because they just scoop a small hole with maybe a panga or just one hole like this and with one hole, and then assume that they have got enough hole for planting the coffee. No, the coffee hole must be of a reasonable size, minimum of 2 feet in diameter and 2 feet in depth. And we separate the soil from the top soil from the brown soil, which is the bottom soil. And it is only the top soil which has good nutrients which can support the coffee plant. Okay. Now, after you have prepared the holes, that means you are moving towards having the coffee garden.
You're preparing the garden, but you're equally preparing yourself mentally. You're getting ready.
Yes. So the next step, therefore, is now, what are you going to plant? Robusta, Arabica. So you have to make a choice. Then after making the choice, what varieties are you going to plant? Because within the Arabica, we have got varieties. We have recommended varieties SL14, SL28, KP423. Okay. Those are the recommended varieties. Within the Robusta, we have 10 recommended varieties. These are recommended because they are resistant to wilt, but also they carry the natural instinct of aroma. Oh. Yes. Now, these varieties, for you are not going to say, I'm going to carry a variety. A variety, you just carry a small planting material of this size, raised by somebody called a nursery operator. We have over 500 nursery operators in this nation. Now, these nursery operators don't just emerge and they say, I'm going to a nursery operator. The nursery operators are already certified jointly by NARO and the UCDA, and regularly supervised by UCDA on the ground. And this is how they produce the planting materials. It's vegetatively propagated. So go to certified.
So the farmer just doesn't go to any supplier.
Right?
You go to a recommended certified nursery.
Yes.
Nice.
If you can't get one in your area, we have called the numbers, but also at Nakori here, we supplement what the nursery operators do. We always have planting materials here for people who want, even in large quantities. Okay. We have them here. Now, I have a picture of some of the varieties. This typical picture of the varieties here. You can see it is really a heavily loaded varieties.
You have now a variety.
Yeah.
So we have the yield per tree. That is
yes, there's a got yield per tree 6 to 10 kilograms of Chivoco.
rudimentary.
Chivoco is a dried cherry.
Yes.
Which I'm using the language which the farmers know.
Yes.
And then that one is resistant to wilts. Those of you who have been around here growing coffee for some time, remember in the 1990s, wilt almost finished all the Robusta. But this institute carried out the research, and we got 10 varieties which are resistant to that.
Wow.
But there's also a disease which my colleague will be telling you called the leaf rust. It is equally devastating. Then other traits are also there. It is early maturing, the screen. Those who sell the coffee, they tell us that the bigger the bean, the better the price. As research, we have taken care of that. The varieties that we are producing are relatively big cherries, yes. Altitan. You know that sometimes you can have 100 kilograms and you get only 30 kilograms of casset. That is a bad problem, a big problem to the farmers. I mean, even the exporters, even the hauliers. So the beans that we have, they're almost giving, the coffee that we have is almost giving us a 60% outturn, about 58%, which is very good. There are other traits which we can also talk about. Okay. Now, I think, can I hand over the microphone to...
No. As a finalizing, because of time, given that you've given us the preparation, how one can prepare and all that, there are other aspects we need to look at. The training, before one's going to plant, do they have to undergo a particular training?
Yes, we recommend that they are trained by the extension officers.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'll get back to you later. Let me connect now to Alice there. Alice, good to have you, and it's very exciting. This is Alice Nambuya. She's a crop technocrat at NACRI here. Now, let's talk about the maintenance of the garden.
Yes, please.
How do we maintain the garden? Given that now we have prepared the garden, we have planted. I love Robusta, and I've put out Robusta. Now, how do I maintain my garden that my yields are not below the expectations?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. Dr. Msoli has already talked about choosing the right variety, establishing. But when we don't manage, then we shall not achieve what we want. So management is quite a long journey. I think it almost doubles his journey. So now that we are prepared, as he said, you've gotten the site, you've gotten the varieties, you have to do the planting. Planting is done at the time when the rains are on. After you put you've gotten your seeding, the planting materials, the day you are going to plant, you water it heavily. Okay. And remember to be in a pot like this. Never make a mistake of planting with a polythene pot on. Like for some farmer did one time, then he blamed extension workers. So you cut off this, you somehow squeeze the ball after watering to be a bit softened. In case of any protruding roots, you cut them off. Then you go to the hole where he talked about. You can use your hand to scoop, just the equivalent of this. Or you can use your panga. Then you scoop in the middle. By the time he did all that, there was a peg in the center of the hole. Yes. When you are filling the hole, there should be a peg standing in the center. fill when the peg is already standing in the center. After filling, then you prepare to plant this. After you've done the planting, you can put temporary shade. Like, for example, you planted, and then all of a sudden some sunshine comes up. So you should put temporary shade. In the coffee, like he has already said, we have two types of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. Each of them has a specific cropping system. Robusta, fine, you can try to dodge around on the shade trees, but I think Arabica, you have to go the way of shade trees. For example, you can when you are planting your coffee, you can put temporary shade like bananas for meantime, but long term, you'll be putting the specific shade trees which are in that specific ecological zone. For example, there was some research done here preliminary, and already a list of those shade trees has come out. We know that if you are in central here, Uganda, you can use ficus, you can use mugavu. That one, I think you understand that language. Yeah. Then, like when you go to Elgon, there are also specific trees there, western, northern. So you go in for the shade trees, which are earmarked for those specific trees done by researchers. Then after putting the research, I think we know all the benefits of shade trees, let alone putting microclimate in the coffee, but also it has also some other benefits. For example, it can provide things like firewood, timber in the long run, because we want our farmer to get money in all their ways. Then after putting the shade, now we go in for weed management. We already talked about weed management in cocoa. Yeah. Do the same here. We have two types of managements. For the young coffee and then mature coffee. At each level, the requirements may be a bit different in some aspects. For example, if the coffee is still young, you've just planted, there's a lot of space. Because we talked of 3 meters by 3 for the Robusta, 2.5 by 2.5 for the Arabica. That space is quite big because the plant is still young. You can come in with intercropping. Intercropping specific trees, crops. Don't just come with your maize, cassava, sweet potatoes, and you do what? You intercrop. We don't want something which is going to compete with our baby. Remember, this is a plant which has just been established and still young, you have to nurture it. So you put intercrops like beans, like soya, like those crops which can add nitrogen to the soil. And then also in weed management, remember, this young plant is still young. The moment you give a lot of space for it to get competition from the weeds, you lose out on the performance. And you know, it's like a baby. For us, we mothers, they say that if you have gotten a baby, at least the best management or the best care you should give to your baby is before he makes 5 years old. So if you do anything much more above 5 years, you not recover anything. So the same with this coffee. There's a period of time where you have to concentrate on the management so that you may give it a boost to be able to come up well. Remember, this is a perennial crop which is going to stay in the field for quite a long time. And remember, you've limited it by putting a spacing where you've limited, if you have planted it here, it is going to be here even if it is 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So you should make sure that you intensify your management in that specific place for that crop.
Alice, let's talk about the pesticide. Because
that one is for Dr. Whatever. But let me just mention one thing. Yeah. Training. Coffee, when you plant only one stem. But we need 3 or 4 per stool. That one is called a stool. Okay. How do you get 3 or 4 and yet you planted 1? You have to do what they call training. You bend it so that it can be able to produce other suckers. And when it has brought the suckers, you can be able to select the best 3 or 4 on that stool and you manage that for the rest for 6 to 7 years or 8, and then you do stamping. There, the activity of stamping you've done, where you are seeing those cut whatever surfaces. And in that, we use this one here. We have this bosso, which is used for cutting the bigger stems. We use this one here to do pruning, using cutting the primaries or suckers. Then we use this one here, pruning saw for the semi-hard. After having trained, of course, you'll have selected the best 3 or 4. You move on that for 7 years or 8. But there's also the issue of soil management. Because you see, I've told you that it is in a limited space and you have given it that. That is its home. The other one also had its own home. But how do you manage that? We have 2 types of soil management, inorganic and organic. Each one of them has advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going that because of time. But also we need to do pruning. I remember I demonstrated in cocoa. Yeah. What we do there, do likewise here, though the one of cocoa is more skilled. Then also, we need to do stamping. I've already mentioned that. Then also there's what you can do, like if you want to rehabilitate your garden. For example, you've been there, you go to some big job somewhere, you abandon your garden for 5-10 years, you are coming back. What do? The steps he has gone through of establishing, you should follow those guidelines to rehabilitate your garden.
Okay.
Mulching, then good soil and water conservation measures should also put in place. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. That is Alice Nambuya, who happens to be a crop technocrat here at Naro. Let's have some good information coming from one of our sponsors, and that is the Bank of Uganda. And we'll be back shortly. We are at Nakri here in Mukono, and it's the Seeds of Gold, the Farm Clinic 22nd edition, and we'll be back shortly.
Thank you for joining us on Farm Clinics, Seeds of Gold. My name is Melissa. I work with Stanbic Bank in the agribusiness segment. The reason as to why, as a bank, we are interested in this program is because it is in one of the biggest sectors, employing so many people in the agriculture sector and contributing 23% to GDP. Unfortunately, the balance, or there's a mismatch between the contribution to GDP and the total number of employees, of people employed in the sector. And as such, this is because of some of the challenges faced by the sector, one being the use of poor farming methods or subsistence methods, post-harvest handling. On the post-harvest handling issue is, the poor post-harvest handling issue is the fact that it's been noted that over 30% of our produce goes to waste at this stage. And as such, these very reasons I've mentioned and several others will make the sector look like it's a high-risk sector and limit access to financing. So as a bank, we are here to confirm and advise that we are available to provide financing to the sector as a means to bridge one of these challenges that faces the sector. The financing that we offer applies to all the players along the value chain. We're talking about individual farmers, commercial farmers, those in the agro-processing area of agriculture, as well as the input providers, the farmer groups as well qualify for this, and several other partners that are interested in the agri-business sector. What kind of financing do we offer? We do offer financing. One is the trade financing. Trade financing will specifically look at players such as the coffee and cocoa processors that tend to export their produce. And how do we support them? We will offer contract or commodity financing where one has a contract. We use that contract to offer a certain percentage of financing for them to be able to stock up and be able to supply into the contract. We will, in some instances, take the commodity as the stock. There are instances where one has supplied and is waiting to be paid, and as such will also needs extra financing to go and purchase more stock and continue to supply into a contract. So in such an instance, we will take the invoice, and that's termed as invoice discounting, and finance them against that invoice. In terms of beyond 12 months financing, we've got the term loans. The term loans cater towards the setting up of your agro-processing plant or farm, where you are looking to put up warehouses or buildings to start production. And the other area that we look at is the mechanization, which is important for the agriculture sector. And for this, we have the vehicle and asset financing facility. The vehicle and asset financing facility really takes on that asset, which could be a tractor, it could be a hauler, a sorter, it could be a dryer, and we use that as the security for you to access financing by giving you funds to purchase these machines. We also go beyond financial services in the sense that we will offer insurance within our bank assurance team, and this includes agriculture insurance that covers both crop and animal. That's the crop and animal insurance. The other product in this space will be insurance to cover your machinery and plant and equipment. So that's the other area that we cover. The other services that we offer are in the sense of trade. So we've got the Africa-China desk. By virtue of our relationship with the Standard Bank Group that has that is also related to ICBC, we are able to connect our farmers or producers in the country to people or entities looking to import our produce. And essentially the biggest commodity that we've seen that has interest is coffee and cocoa. And so we are able to do that connection to get markets for our local producers as well. And in light of the fact that we are in the COVID-19 pandemic, as a bank, we continue to come up with solutions that address the ever-changing environment. And one of the areas that we noted that has been grossly or greatly impacted is our people who are in the informal sector, both in agribusiness and non-agribusiness activities. And so for that, because we know their chosen area of financing comes through from their SACCOs, that's the savings and credit associations or cooperatives, as well as village savings groups. And as such, we have, together with several partners, come up with a SACCO proposition that seeks to address the challenges such as their inability or access to capital, as well as other services. So in this SACCO proposition, we will offer financing of up to 200 million shillings unsecured to these groups for 12.5% interest per annum, which translates to about 1% per month for them to be able to access this financing and then onward lend to their members so they can go back or get back into economic activities, of which agriculture is one of. And then they can also access this financing for investment purposes to purchase agro-processing equipment. They can also purchase these, they can also access this financing to develop or put up, it could be an office or for themselves, or purchase a vehicle that will help transport produce. So this is available as well. That is the SACCO, that's under the SACCO proposition. In addition to the current restrictions that do not permit gatherings and movements, we have what we call the Flexi Wallet. That is an electronic wallet that will allow the members of these groups, as well as farmers out there, to get connected to the financial institutions or transactions and allow them to transact for free. And this allows them to both push funds to the wallet and also collect funds on the wallet. So that's what we have in terms of the services. And in regards to how we can be approached, we have over 60 branches in countrywide. You can access any of our branches and get the help that you need. You can also access us by calling our call center line, which is 0800
It's still Seeds of Gold. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and today we are at the Farm Clinic, the 22nd edition. We're talking about coffee and how we can actually get it from the farm to the last person standing, like from the farm to the cup as a beverage and the value addition that comes with it. It's the conversation. Earlier on, we had the first doctor who told us how to prepare the gardens, how to get ready. Then we had the management of the establishment and all. Now we're joined by Dr. Godfrey Kagezi to explain to us how do we manage the pests and to make sure that the quality doesn't dwindle at whatever costs. Yes, Doctor, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Dear viewers, the monitor theme is climate smart agriculture. But for us as Nakori, we are saying climate smart agriculture for what? So for us, it's climate smart agriculture for coffee, cocoa quality.
Nice.
So whatever the first presenters have talked about is all geared towards quality. And then I'm going to talk about pests and diseases. What's a pest in the first place? A pest is any living organism which competes, which injures, or which causes damage to a plant, to a farmer, to animals. So in this case, I'm going to talk about pests of coffee. We have so many pests in Uganda, but not all of them are major. So I'm going to concentrate on the major pests. But we are not training as such, as Dr. Msoli said, but we are sharing notes with the stakeholders because already our farmers and other stakeholders know about these problems. The most important pest now in Uganda, insect pest, is called the black coffee twig borer. And this insect pest bores into the primary branches. These are the primary branches. It causes them to wilt and die, as you see them. So that means the farmer is losing 100% of the coffee. And at present, currently, the damage stands at 9.6, which in dollar terms, we are losing about $42 million because of the pest.
That's a lot.
So there's a need to control it. We have developed a cultural control package as narrow, and we have also come up with a trap which can trap these insects. We can talk about these technologies later. Then another pest of importance is the coffee berry borer. The coffee berry borer goes into the berry. As this one goes into the small branches, the other one goes into the berry. But it also causes a lot of damage, and that one affects quality directly. Then we have another one called the mealbags. These mealbags, they are small sucking insects, and usually they attack the seeds, they attack the leaves, and because they are sucking sap, all food for the plant, that means the plant is deprived of food, and it will end up yellowing. And they are also known to cause even 100%. They are more important. In fact, they attack both. The twig borer also attacks both. Then we have another, which is coming up, is the coffee berry moth. This coffee berry moth is a moth, is like a butterfly. It attacks the berries, and then it also feeds on the seeds, and therefore the farmer loses.
You've used the word coming up. Is it a new pest in the market?
No, pests are funny. That's why I said they usually come up depending on either the conditions, the environmental conditions, or any other. They become epidemics. So this one used not to be a very major pest.
But
now we are getting reports from the central, especially, that it's becoming a major pest. I got a call some time ago from Kaweri, and this is now the biggest problem they have. And since they attack the berry, you lose almost 100% all the attacked berries. And this one goes for both, but it's more important in Robusta coffee. Then for Arabica coffee, we have the coffee white stem borer. So this one goes for the stem, and is very much pronounced in mid altitude, like Sironko district, whereby they can even cause 100%. The tree will wilt and then die.
Is it like this one here, though?
No, that one is a disease I'm going to talk about it. For the other pests, We have sucking bags. We have so many bags. We have the antestia bags. We have the less bags. They also suck. They suck sap from the plant. And since they suck sap, the plant is deprived of the nutrients. Therefore, they die. When it comes, there's another one called the tailed caterpillar. This one, I think, it usually becomes a problem. Like in Masindi, sometime, I think 2 years ago, we got a call from Masindi where it had become a problem, a big, big problem. And since they are attacking the leaves, they eat the leaves. They can eat even 70% of the leaves. And you know the leaf is the kitchen for the plant.
For the plant, yes.
So if you eat all the leaf, that means the plant has no food. And when it comes to diseases, coffee doesn't have a lot of diseases, at least in Uganda. There might be 4 important ones, but they can really be lethal. They can cause 100%. So the most important is the coffee wilt disease, the one we are talking about. Dr. Msoli talked about it. Wish to thank Naro government of Uganda, UCDA, and other sponsors, like you said, like EU, who gave us funds, and we developed 10 resistant varieties. Dr. Msoli already talked about those varieties. And those varieties, we have them there. And we are advising farmers to plant, Robusta farmers to plant those varieties. The good thing, it doesn't go for Arabica in Uganda, but outside like Ethiopia, it goes for also Arabica. Then we have another disease which is important. Also, Dr. Msoli talked about it. It's the coffee refrust. It's the coffee refrust. And this one is also important. It's becoming important because it affects the leaves. Then we have another one which is coming up. It's called the brown, the red blister. You see the berries?
They're kind of brown.
Yeah, they kind of brown. The red, then brown, then they die. And since they are going for the berries, that means they are affecting the quality, not only the quantity, but the quality directly. This one has not been a major disease, but now it's becoming a major disease. Yeah. Then we have the brown eye spot, as you see them. Usually this one goes for the nursery, in the nursery, and causes those spots you see. And it can be lethal. So it's the same pathogen which causes the red blister I was talking about with this one. So when the coffee is young, it goes for the leaves. When the coffee puts on berries, it goes for the berries.
All that said, Doctor, how best can a farmer navigate through?
Yeah, for when you look at most of the pests and diseases, if you do what Dr. Msoli started with, then you go to Madam Alice Nambuya, the management, you will manage most of these things.
Wow.
Because you are reducing the stress to the plant. Plants also get stressed like us.
True.
And when they get stressed, it's like how COVID is behaving. When you are stressed, you are likely to get COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So we should avoid those. We should really manage our plantations. We should have shade trees. We should mulch like what you see here. And we should apply fertilizers. Most of our farmers are not applying fertilizers. I'm not saying only artificial fertilizers. They can also apply manure. They can also use the weeds. After weeding, you use them as manure.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
That is Dr. Kagezi. We're still having a conversation. We're still at the National Coffee Research Institute. Now we are looking at the value addition. What comes with the value addition? It is something we have always looked at. And just so you remember that we had winners who actually won in the proposal writing. These are the farmers that participated. And today we are yet to see who is going to win what. We have 2 winners who won, and we already have their names. So if you're one of those who participated, you're over 30, today would be the day. Okay, value addition. In the last few minutes we're talking about value addition in coffee. So just from the management in the farm, rather on the farm, then to the post-harvest quality management. Now we come to the value addition, what coffee has to do with the value addition. Talking to us, we're going to have Doreen. Good afternoon, Doreen.
Good afternoon. Doreen from Uganda Uganda Coffee Development Authority. I work as acting quality and regulatory services director.
Okay.
Addition in coffee is a post-harvest component of the coffee. As you have been told, the coffee is grown on farms and good agricultural practices are done. Then after it is harvested, it has to be handled in a way that preserves that value or enhances the value. So here we have dry cherry, or commonly known as Chivoco. This is a product of natural drying of the coffee.
Okay.
Yes, coffee is picked, floated, washed, and then dried on a proper or clean surface
Okay.
to produce this. Yeah.
That is Chivoco.
Yes, the equivalent of it when the coffee is washed and pulped is parchment. So this is parchment. It's an equivalent of this. And this is coffee before it is hulled. Yes, it is hulled.
Okay.
Then we have new. This coffee is honey processed coffee. It is picked, pulped, and
Yay.
it's not washed. Yeah, but this preserves the quality and makes the coffee more sweeter.
Okay.
Yes.
I see the green coffee beans now.
Yes. Thank you very much. These are green coffee beans. After this stage, the coffee is hulled in a machine called a harari, and then it is blown, and then it is graded. This coffee is graded and is ready for export in this form. So this is a value-added product.
Perfect. Now we are looking at this is coffee at home and the likes. I see here coffee shrub because of time. I'm just this is scrub for face and body cream, soft smooth skin. There is something. Coffee oil. Okay.
Brown coffee oil.
Yeah, I have the brown coffee oil. The 22nd edition of the Farm Clinic, and we're still at Nakori Institute. It's very exciting. In our first conversation, we talked about coffee and the value addition and all that comes with it. Now here, we are having cocoa. Just to bring you to speed, cocoa has over time evolved. Just to take you maybe back in 1970s, according to the stats, we had around 241 tons of cocoa. But over the years, in 2019, we're having a 35,000 tonnage of cocoa. So it's actually growing. If it's growing at a rate of, should I say, 18.11%, now that can be converted to around $1.05 million. That is around 400-something billion Ugandan shillings. So that is the conversation. Here we are having cocoa. Now, many of you don't pay attention to cocoa, how it works and what it does and the value addition that comes from it. But not only that, the return to investment, not only to the nation as a block, but the leakages and all that. Now, to make sense of this conversation and more, with me I have a Mr. Job Chemtai, who happens to be a cocoa breeder. Job,
yes,
Sema.
Yeah, you're very much welcome, Mr. Chamagero, to Nakori, that's the National Coffee Research Institute.
Yes.
At Nakori, we are mandated on research on coffee and
Yes.
cocoa. I must say that these are some of the two main beverage crops produced by our country.
Perfect.
And in terms of the earnings, which the country earns, currently cocoa is number 3.
Wow.
We have coffee number 1, bringing in about $500 million. Then we have tea, that's number 2. And currently cocoa brings in about $105 million, that's per year. And that's close to about 400 billion to the economy of Uganda.
That is a great investment.
Yeah.
You as a cocoa breeder, what do you make of the current household? Though those figures go to the national scale or household just for cocoa farmers?
Yeah, actually I can say that whatever the country receives from the exports, of course goes back to the households at the farmer level. Currently we have currently, because of the high demand for the crop globally, the crop has moved as far as West Nile and parts of northern Uganda in the districts of Padel.
But does the climate allow them to thrive even in those other areas like West Nile and northern Uganda?
Yeah, actually I can say that where you see Robusta performing well and where you see bananas performing well, those conditions support cocoa production.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you see your area can support good, both the Robusta coffee and then the bananas, those conditions in most cases support good growth of cocoa.
Let's talk about the seedling, Chamtai. When you look at the seedling, I can see a couple of them down there.
Yeah.
Let me just have one and then you can have the other.
Yeah,
This looks like an ordinary, plant. Now we have a challenge in the country of access to seedlings, or when you get the seedlings, how do you manage it? Can you take us through that first for the seedlings?
Yeah, actually for the seedlings, first of all, if you're to develop a good seedling, that means it should have a good mother. That means it should have a good parent tree. As Nakori, we are working towards releasing good varieties of cocoa. We haven't officially released, but of course we teach farmers to be able to identify the best seed. Yeah, because if you want the best seedling, a vigorous one like this one, you need to get it from a tree which is free from diseases, free from the pests. And one of the characteristics of a good seedling is, first of all, as I have said, it should be vigorous, free from nutrient deficiencies, free from pests and diseases. And of course, some farmers want to plant the seed directly.
In the soil?
In the soil. We don't encourage that because it will not be ready to face the harsh conditions of the weather. So we first of all encourage them to first get it and plant the seed in the pots and put it in the nursery bed. When it's ready, that's between 3 to 4 months. That's when you can be able to get
Wait
a
a
good
minute.
seedlings.
The seedling of cocoa takes 3 to 4 months?
Yeah, 3 to 4 months. It should be ready to come to this stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the establishment. How should the establishment look like?
Actually, the first thing is, as I've said, you first look at which conditions favor the cocoa growth.
Well, we have Robusta, we have bananas.
Yeah, we can be able to support also cocoa growth. What we are looking at is we are looking at well-drained soils. Yeah, we don't want to put our cocoa in an area which is waterlogged because it will not obviously give you good quality yields, and the yields will be very decimal. And then the other one is the soils should not be too sandy because like in such a condition where we have been in the drought, the cocoa will really struggle.
It won't thrive.
Yeah, it will not thrive. So we are looking at soils which are well drained, and those are normally the loam soils. They should be fertile. And then the depth of that area, like before reaching the parent rock, in case there is a rock, it should be about 1.5 meters.
Hey.
The soil should be about 1.5 meters before you reach any rock behind, such that the roots can be able to move
to spread well.
Yeah, such that the crop can be able to give.
Now, the farmers you talked about in the different regions you mentioned of this country, do they get adequate training on how best to run this? Because now, let's look at the volumes. 1971, we were just having 241 tons of the product. Here we are, we have gone in 35,000 plus. What does this mean to you? Are people getting to understand the product, or are we improving on our quality delivery? What are we putting on the international market?
Yeah, actually, I'm excited that there has been a lot of interest by the farmers to take up the cocoa production. But the main challenge is farmers don't know about how to manage the crop.
Yes, that's the thing.
Actually, most of the people who have heard about cocoa, they thought it can only grow in Ghana, it can only grow in West Africa.
Yes.
But I can say that right now where we are standing, Uganda is number 8 in terms of the volumes of cocoa produced. Of course, West Africa is still leading.
Yes.
There are countries like Brazil and Indonesia which are ahead of us. But I can say that currently we are really pushing up so high. As you indicated earlier,
yes.
in 2004, Uganda was only getting about $7 million from cocoa exports. But right now, the country is getting about $105 million. That's per year. So you can see that within 15 years, we have been able to jump from $7 million to $105 million. And I believe that if we move at this pace, within the next 10 to 15 years, we can easily hit the 1 billion mark.
This is Job Chemtai from Anakri here. He happens to be a cocoa breeder. Now, what is the vantage point on the international market as Ugandans? What is the vantage point which you can take the niche and amplify it?
Actually, I can say that for Uganda, the advantage, comparative advantage we have is our quality. Our quality is so good because we have been rarely using pesticides.
True.
And then there is a challenge of cadmium. Cadmium is a heavy metal.
Okay.
It is normally occurring in the soils. It's normally for the Caribbean countries, it is so high, it is quite high in the soils.
Okay.
But for Uganda, we don't have it. So that means that our cocoa can easily give us the premium product because of the quality. Because Uganda, we produce our cocoa at a higher altitude. So that means that it can be able to accumulate enough sugars, accumulate enough flavors, such that it can be able to give the premium cocoa products. That's the chocolate, the powders. So that's the comparative advantage we have. And then, as I have indicated, we are producing our cocoa mainly organically. So so the exporters, they source the organic cocoa from Uganda, and then for other bulk productions, they source it from elsewhere.
Oh, there you have it. That is Mr. Job Chemtai. He happens to be a cocoa breeder here at Nakri. You and I now understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with. Kwanzaa, it is a very good product. It's a very good crop. You need to invest in it. Find time, understand it, get to know how it works. Now, he has explained a little bit about the, the seed, the establishment and all that. But again, you need to understand, if you're getting in this business of cocoa, how do you manage it and the likes? I'll be back with someone much more placed to explain this. Still talking about harvesting management and how to get into the cocoa business. Joining me, I have a crop technician and agronomist called Alice Nambuye. Good afternoon, Alice.
Thank you.
Now, it's very exciting. Earlier on, we had a conversation with Job. It was mind-blowing.
Yes,
let's talk about the management of cocoa. How do I manage my portfolio? Returns to investment can make sense to me.
Yeah, and I was telling you that cocoa is like just you get a baby. He has talked about management, establishment. But without management, you shall not be able to get the end result.
Yeah.
How do we manage cocoa? We have it into two. Younger cocoa and mature cocoa. For the younger cocoa, in all anyway, we need to control the weeds. We need to do the soil management. And we need shade above all. But for the younger cocoa, you can go an extra mile. You have to make sure that when this cocoa tree puts out your weights, branching, first of all, it should be at an ample height. This is a field where a farmer is going to be rotating the rest of maybe 20 or 30 years, a perennial crop.
Yes.
So if your plant has located at a low height, it will not be favorable. Like just behind there, if you look at that crop, it is quite low. So what you do, in case you've gotten a crop which has located at that height, you induce another one, like you'd have done to this one, so that you get one which is high enough, where you can be able to move in the field and make operations.
Okay.
You should carry out weed management. You make sure that you control weeds. You should make sure that also you amend your soil. In soil fertility management, we have two options, organic and inorganic. For the organic, we use things like manure, where compost, crop residues, and the rest of that.
Yes.
But for the inorganics, we use the artificial ones which are bought from the shop. For the manure is good in that, though it is required in many much amounts, But once you apply only once a year. But the disadvantage with the inorganics is that when you apply, you have to keep applying every season.
So that
and that's and that's the reason why you hear out there farmers saying that somebody told me to apply some fertilizer, but my crops have become even worse. The reason being that when he applied the first season, he didn't come again the second season.
In the same quantities?
In the same quantities. The problem is for the inorganics, when you apply, it is easily washed away or leached during like heavy rains. So it's better to the farmer to amend the soil, to do weed control, to ensure that the shade which is there is of the appropriate recommended variety. Like here we have farmers so far using mesize trees, though the research has not yet come up with another variety, but that's what farmers are using now. Cocoa is believed to be a shade-loving tree. Minus shade, cocoa cannot do well. The reason that when you put cocoa in an open place, it will develop dieback. Dieback is where you get a plant starting to dry from the tips. And once it starts drying from the tips, the shelf life of cocoa will be shortened.
So ideally, you can have a big forest around your house, but when there is a shade, rather in your farm,
yes, please.
And then cocoa can be guarded by the shade from the other taller trees.
But also that shade should be regulated. For example, like you see where I'm standing, this is a cocoa tree, but above is a mesize tree. But you can be able to see through. So you should have that cocoa tree which has attributes like the sun should be able to go through, and even you'll be able to provide a certain amount of light which is controlled, but again not having a dense shade. Because dense shade will suppress the cocoa, but again when it is too open, it will bring you dieback, which will affect the shelf life of the cocoa, and it will not produce well. And hence the quality of cocoa will be compromised.
Let's talk about harvesting. How do you harvest cocoa well? Because
harvesting,
when you look at it at the back there, someone would think you just come and you with a knife and you cut it down and then you go.
That one is for a docket for my next next colleague. But forever me, I want to talk about another type of management. Here with me, I have different types of tools. I have this one here is called a secateur. A secateur is used for removing the softy primaries, like this one here.
You can show me?
Yeah, like here.
Yep.
In a cocoa tree, you have to ensure pruning. Pruning is one of the skillful functions, operations that is very, very essential.
It keeps
you cannot do without shade, you cannot do without pruning. Why do we prune a tree? A tree which is over bushy, first of all, will not facilitate the aeration and the light to go through. And even it will be very difficult for you to manage it. But if you prune it like you've seen this one here, you will open up a tree, you will have enough light to go through, you will have enough light, air to move through. You will even reduce on the places where pests and diseases can breed. And you can even have a beautiful plant other than having a plant which is shabby. So pruning, we have this one here, as I said, the secateur is for the small branches. This one here is a pruning saw for the semi-hard. Like if I want to get rid of this one here, where I cannot use a secateur, I use a pruning saw. And then when I want to
it's a bigger branch.
Like this one here next to me, you use a bosso. This is called a bosso. You use this one here to cut the bigger stems. And in any case, if you are cutting, you ensure that you cut from inside to outwards, 45 degrees. 1 foot from the ground. So in case I wanted to get rid of this one here, of course I have to remove this thing here. Then you do this, and do you know farmers have a measuring tape with them wherever they are. If I do this, it's 30 centimeters and it's 1 foot. I use an equivalent stick, which is equivalent to 1 foot, and that's where I'm supposed to cut my tree. If I do this, I think you can see how they did it.
That's 1 foot.
1 foot from the ground. You cut with a bosso for the bigger stems outwards 45 degrees. Why? Because we want to encourage another one to come up.
To come through.
Then also we have to maintain one stem in cocoa. In cocoa we talk of 3-4 per stem or per stool. But in cocoa we have only one. And this one is called a basal stem or a chupon. You see here that we are going to have all the pods that we are going to harvest. And come again?
All through.
All through. Only one. This is very interesting in the cocoa. We have one basal stem of some desirable height, where even if you are tall or short, you can be able to operate in the field. And once that one is done, if you've chosen this one here, allow only 4 to 5 funny branches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
These are the funny branches. An equivalent of 3 to 4 stems in coffee.
Oh, yes. So this produces more than the coffee.
No, doesn't produce. They are the same, but the only problem is these are funny branches from up, but coffee comes
from down. I agree.
So we have only one basal stem with 5 funny branches or 4. And this is why we are going to control for the rest of, even if it's 50 years, we shall be getting our cocoa from here. What you should be mindful about is that once the branches grow wild or like too broken or whatever, you keep pruning using these other equipment.
I saw you come with a hoe here.
And in a hoe, we normally use it like at establishment, and then also like when you are controlling weeds, especially in the younger cocoa, because the younger cocoa, that one is more sensitive to weed competition. True. And you know what weeds do? Weeds do compete with the crops. They compete with the crop. They can even be a source of alternative hosts, keeping pests around their crop. They can compete. They can even make their place anyway a bit difficult for a farmer to operate. That's right, yes. So it's better to keep around the cocoa clean for the young ones, but for the mature one, once they have already established, they have a tendency of having the canopy come together. Yeah. So these ones, because of their canopy, they can be able to, even with this defoliation around here, they can be able to suppress the weeds. And in weeds, we do use integrated weed management, whereby we have a combination of different methods. Okay. Yeah, for the young ones, whole weeding is one of them. You can do ring weeding around the plant, that's number 2. You can do in between slashing, then you can also use herbicides, but that is only for the mature plants, now, in case you are to do it.
That's why you need to emphasize someone will use herbicides when they were young or when they're still young. That
will be very dangerous.
That will endanger them.
Yeah, and even it depends on the type of weeds. For example, now like if we've lost some plants like now here, you can see a lot of gaps, and whenever there are many gaps, they will promote the weed growth. Yeah. But if it was under normal, where the plant has all established well, and the canopy has touched each other 3 to 4 years, you don't need to use herbicides, but you can only just do minimum slashing, but not whole weeding. Wow. That one is only in young cocoa. Then you can also intercrop. Yeah. There's also within with the younger cocoa, you can intercrop with other crops like beans. Like don't put maize. You should put in the legume producing crops like beans, soya, nuts. I think those ones.
For now. Well, that is Alice Nambuya, who happens to be, a crop technical person here at NACRI. But not only that, Alice is an agronomist, and she's given us the management. She's explained to us a couple of things. Now, when we talk about cocoa, another thing that you need to be worried about is something called pests. When you go back this side, you can see how pests actually affect the cocoa. We're going to be joined by another technical person here who is going to explain far and wide about the pests. Where we are is where cocoa is grown, and this is something very remarkable. The shade is still as they said. But not only that, the environment, the control, the trees actually giving ample time for the light to come down, but not only that, the value addition that comes. So one, we had the conversation that came through with the management, rather the seedling, the establishment, and thereafter we talked something to do with the management, the field management. That was Alice Nambuya. She explained quite well. Now I'm joined by another great person here. This happens to be Mr. Kabore Charles, another great crop technical person at NACRI here, and he's an entomologist. Good afternoon.
Entomopathologist.
So, Mr. Kabole, explain to us something to do with the pests, because we have been trained about the seedling, the establishment, the field management, the harvesting. Now we're coming to the pests.
Oh,
so, what are the biggest pests that disturb cocoa?
I'm very glad, and I take the opportunity to welcome you here. I'm honored really to be here to talk to you. And my role here is to explain to you about pests of cocoa. My colleagues, you have gone through a number of events in order to come up with a crop. But after growing this crop, there are problems associated with it. Priority problems. Like? They must have mentioned the varieties must be good. There is a global warming that has set in. There are agronomical issues, and then pests and diseases. All of those must be sorted out. Now, cocoa as a crop has very many pests that disturb it, and I'll categorize them into two.
Please.
Because there are many.
Yeah.
So that I mentioned the insect pests and the vertebrate pests.
Okay.
I'll call them, I'll put them in the brackets and call them vermin. And I'll start with that category. There are very many, like squirrels. Those are squirrels, those are vertebrate pests. The monkeys, baboons, those are that side. Plus so many others like mole rats. And to amuse you, human beings are also
part of the pests.
a very big problem to cocoa. And
how human beings a problem to the cocoa?
Yeah, these human beings, especially school-going children and pregnant mothers, can be a nuisance to cocoa.
Does it have a nutrient that, excites the pregnant women, that they want it again and again?
Now, usually with the pregnant mothers, the hormones make them like certain things and dislike certain things.
That's true.
Sometimes they can like small mangoes, just tiny ones. And after tasting it, it is okay. So sometimes they like cocoa pods, just to taste mucilage, a seed. And she will take off 3 or 4 pods. Cumulatively, let's take, for example, 2-3 months. This farmer will actually have a very big loss cumulatively. So this is why they become a very big problem. And why they are also a problem, when harvesting, they don't take care of the flower cushions. Because with the cocoa, where that pod originated from is a flower cushion. And consequently, when you break it in an abnormal way, you'll be destroying that flower cushion for other seasons and other harvests. So this is why they are a very big problem. When it comes to school-going children, they can come sometimes because they want to take to their friend who is not near cocoa. They want to take to an auntie. They want to take to a cousin. So they carry very many pods, and they carry them away from the farmer's field, garden.
The other pests?
And sometimes they steal. They don't ask for permission to enter the field. The other pests are squirrels. Squirrels are a very big problem, especially in certain particular regions, especially the Busoga region.
The Busoga region.
The Busoga region, they are called Obudada. They are a very, very big problem. Now, for you to know that this is a squirrel, this is a mole rat, this is a monkey that destroyed, you'll see this. For monkeys, they will always start from the tip. Whether it is a ripe banana or cocoa pod, they start from the tip. If it is a mole rat, I beg your pardon, because they climb the branch and the seat, and it will start from here. That's for the rat. If it is a squirrel, it will be it concentrates only in the middle here and removes the cocoa beans and leaves this thing as empty as this. Hollow. So this is squirrels, the monkeys, the baboons, the human beings take over 60% of cocoa if it is not checked.
So how best can we manage this? Because at the end of the day, we need to make returns, Charles. So how best can a farmer or someone interested to join the business manage?
Probably I would ask you to hold that question a little bit so that I come with these other pests.
Yes, in a minute.
In a minute,
yes.
Then we can talk about how to come about that.
Yes.
Now, the other insect, I should quickly go to the other insect pests.
Yeah.
We have a number of them. There are over 90, but priority ones, those that are very, very problematic. I'll start with the scales. I'll show you the scales, how they look like.
Yeah.
But because of time, I'll just show you how they damage. So let's start with the capsids.
Yep.
I'm sorry, because I need to show you the real scales. These are capsids. They do a very serious damage. And once they do this, for them, they suck the sap. So as they suck the sap, the quality of the cocoa beans goes down. And as they do this, they make the pods not to grow bigger, like just you are seeing this one. It is very tiny. So the farmer will lose, because what a farmer needs are the beans inside the pod. So these are a very, very big problem, and I'll not go into the scientific names to confuse you. But if you need the scientific names, we can go into
I will always stop on each house.
Yes. So apart from the capsids, there are borers. Cocoa has two types of borers. There are pod borers and stem borers. And these are a very big problem, especially the pod borers, because once they bore, they enter inside and the beans rot. And once they rot, then the quality goes down, the farmer loses. Apart from this, we have the Nile bags. They are called the Nile bags because they are white, just as you can see. They look like a meal of posho, a meal.
Yes.
So the word Nile bag, because it is a bag, and it looks like a meal of posho, so they are Nile bags. These ones also suck sap, and as they suck sap, they aggregate mostly around the stalk and in the grooves, just as you are seeing. And these ones, together with the scales and aphids, attract the ants. And ants are a very good association of these ones, and they play a big role in the ecosystem of cocoa. And for them, they attend to these three that I've mentioned by removing the excoriate, which is sugary. And because of the sugar, they are attracted and they chase away the natural enemies that would come and destroy this, because these ones don't move. Once they fix their mouth parts, that's it. They just continue sucking until the cycle continues.
Okay. Now, Charles, in just a minute, I know we can talk the whole day. Let's talk about how best a farmer can protect themselves from pests.
Okay. The good thing is that my colleagues did a very good job.
Indeed.
They were talking about good agronomical practices. Once you do that, then you'll be as good as controlling them without necessarily going into the chemicals or the pesticides. Because just once you keep your garden as recommended, you'll do a very good job.
Okay.
But when it persists, some of these just need spot spray. You just come and do spot spraying, because they may not, you first scout to determine, does it really need chemical spray? Does it need physical control, or just simply doing the agronomic practices? As for the other vertebrate pests, like the school-going children,
The pregnant wives.
and the pregnant wives, you need to set rules around your farm. That if, for instance, you have been seeing signposts that if you urinate there, 50,000. If you do this, 100,000.
Dogs on the loose.
Dogs on the loose. You can even have dogs in your garden. Actually, they chase away the monkeys. But the monkeys develop a technology to also chase them away. And what the monkeys do, they know that dogs sit on them to work, to bite them. So it lands on the back and then grabs the dog by the intestine, pulls the insides out. and it runs away. Tomorrow that dog will be dead.
So you have to evolve as they evolve.
Exactly. So you need to put in other measures.
Wow.
But you can have other control measures like repellents. The monkeys are very, very careful. If they find something smelling funny, they will notice a poison, they'll just go away.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That is Charles. He happens to be another good person, a crop tech and an entomologist from the NACRI here where we are. It's the 22nd edition. And just so you know, this conversation is still going live. Please be a part of this conversation. If you're a farmer and you wanted to start the business of cocoa and you want to understand how to establish the farm and how to play around with pests, this is a conversation you need to be a part of. Now I'll take a break for now, and we have a word from our sponsor, that is from NSSF. Then I'll take you to another chain of the value addition, from the farm to the value addition chain. We'll be back shortly.
Excuse me.
NSSF recently launched the voluntary membership saving scheme. Basically, this saving platform gives an opportunity to workers and employers that are not covered under the mandatory provisions of the NSSF Act to voluntarily save for their retirement. There are two categories of customers that this scheme targets. One, former members of NSSF. By former members, I mean former contributors. For one reason or the other, a member who was formerly saving with NSSF dropped out of employment and they are doing their own private business, but they are still earning. So we give them an opportunity to continue saving voluntarily on their previous accounts because their accounts with NSSF do not close. The second category of people that we target under this scheme are the employers who are employing less than 5 people. As we all know, that it's by law that any employer who is employing more than 5 people is supposed to pay NSSF for their staff. But under this voluntary saving scheme, even those employers that are employing less than 5 people, the scheme gives them an opportunity to save for their staff. Joining this scheme is absolutely free. What a member needs to do, or a company needs to do, is to show interest. A member can visit any of our branches, or they can get to us on any of our social media platforms. Even still, we are doing whatever that we can to reach out to all those members who were in formal employment previously, but have now gone out to start earning on their own. So we show us the interest, then we shall have to get back to you and have you registered on board. Then the employer, if you're having less than 4 people, rather less than 5 people, you just have to get onto our website and have a self-registration, or contact any of our branches, or visit us on any of our social media platforms, then we shall have you registered. Currently, we have over 24,000 members that have subscribed to this saving scheme, and it's growing every day because Ugandans have embraced the spirit of saving, and they are taking it upon themselves at least to plan for their retirement. The benefits of joining this scheme are enormous. One, at least there's a peace of mind. One knows that at least I am saving for my retirement. At the point of retirement, at the point when I'm no longer productive anymore, I have a fallback plan. I have a replacement income that will enable me go through the expenses of old age or sustaining my life. So it is really, really, really good that we start saving at this moment. The other, one of the benefits, another benefit is there's at least a flexibility in the way we conduct our business. We've made it very easy for our members to pay under this scheme. They can pay as little as 5,000 shillings, and they can pay as many times as they wish. We don't restrict any member. So it is small steps with different saving aspirations, and slowly by slowly a member will have to get there. Then there's also a very big return, a very good return on the savings that a member has made. We have also made it very convenient for our members to pay their contributions. One can pay using their phone, using the NSSF Go code of *254#, or the usual *165 and *185 for MTN and Airtel respectively. The moment you pay, your account is immediately credited, and you'll get a notification to show that at least your savings are growing. So on a regular basis, as you pay, you still track your savings and you know how you're progressing. Like other years, even this year, we've partnered with National Media Group through their Seeds of Gold and the farm clinics to reach out to the farmers out there. Statistics show that a big percentage of our members, once they are paid contributions, the contributions from NSSF, they go into agriculture. Some have used their money well, and they've seen their agribusinesses grow. So we are coming in as NSSF to encourage those farmers that have not embraced the NSSF voluntary saving scheme to come on board and start saving voluntarily. Even those that got their benefits and use them wisely, we still require them or request them to come on board and continue saving, because they are still living, they are still earning, so it is important that they save for the uncertainties that might come. We are also giving financial literacy lessons and tips to these farmers on how they can grow their businesses and how they can progress. We also urge the farmers out there to embrace e-farming, as it's the theme this year, that e-farming is the way to go. Things have changed and we are no longer doing business the way we used to do. So those farmers that have gotten their savings from NSSF and they've put them to good use, please spread the good gospel of the benefits one gets once they put their money into good use, especially the money that you got from NSSF. We know that there are many people out there who would also wish to join, but are not under the category that I've mentioned, especially the informal sector. Statistics show that 15 million Ugandans are the ones that are working, but out of the 15 million working Ugandans, 11 million of them are in the informal sector. We would wish to tap into that market and have everyone in the informal sector come in and join and start saving. But we are restricted by the law under which we are working. NSSF is, however, as an organization, we are not seated. We are engaging the different stakeholders and the different policy makers, at least to try and pass the bill into law so that we can have this market of informal sector also come in and start contributing. As an organization, we are ready. We've had a lot of technological enhancements and we are ready to tap into that market. So I urge people in the informal sector to hold on a little bit as we finalize to have them come on board. I want to appeal to everyone out there that retirement or old age will catch up with any of us at one moment. So how prepared we are is what makes the difference. Please don't retire into poverty. NSSF Voluntary Savings Scheme is the solution, and you're all welcome to come and join. You can reach out to us on any of our social media platforms or on our toll-free number. Thank you very much.
Silence on set.
Abali emabega.
Bamama batuli waggulu awo.
Amaloboozi.
Amaloboozi.
Mangi. Mwogere mpolo oba muddeko wali.
Well, earlier on we were talking about the farming, the establishment, the seedling. Then we went to the pests and the management of the garden. Now here we had the post-harvest handling processes and the value addition. Here we have the beans. I can see the harvest is all here. They're all sweet. They look yummy, by the way. But I cannot explain how best this can actually go. I'm joined by our great man here. He's a food scientist. He's called Joseph Mulindwa. Good afternoon, Mr. Mulindwa.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chamagero.
This is value addition.
Yes.
I love what I see. I love the energy that is here. But Kwanzaa, I want you to take us through from one step to another step to another step to the final product where the value addition comes in.
Okay. Thank you. In the interest of being audible, I think I will take off the mask.
And I'll be this side. Carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Now, earlier on, my friends were explaining the processes we go through when the cocoa is still in the field.
True.
But I want us to go through the post-harvest handling. What happens when you have harvested your cocoa? Because the magic thing I want to tell us, what happens to this cocoa starts from the point of harvest. You know, cocoa is where you produce the chocolate. chocolateness. That flavor when you're eating the chocolate is developed at this point of the post-harvest.
So it's very crucial.
Very crucial. Actually, it contributes over 75% of the flavor development and the taste that you experience when you're eating the chocolate. So I want us to go through stepwise such that we don't miss a point. This is a very critical point when we are dealing with this wonderful crop. Actually, I want to call it a rich crop.
A rich crop.
Yes. So Mr. Brian will be helping me. When we have harvested the cocoa, we have to break it. This we call it a cocoa pod. What is holding here is called a cocoa pod. This cocoa pod is what contains the cocoa beans. So once it is harvested, we need to break it. And when you're breaking it, farmers have a tendency of using a panga, but we discourage them. We tell them that use a wood, a wooden log. Reason being, when you're using a panga, there are higher chances that you will cut through the pod and you damage the beans. You're starting to deteriorate the quality. So when you have harvested, this is how the beans will be looking like. It has a characteristic sugary layer that surrounds it. This sugary layer, it produces the juice, which we call, of course, the pulp. And we have come up with an innovation. We don't want the farmers to lose this juice which is surrounded on the bean. So we have come up with, this is called the Juice Extractor. We tell our farmers, when you have harvested this cocoa, don't lose the juice in the field. Why don't we want to lose the juice in the field? If you lose it in the field, it becomes acidic. And it will spoil the field, and your cocoa productivity will also reduce. So those who can afford to have such an extractor, this is a stainless steel. It gets in contact with the food.
Do you make it here as well? Do they make them here?
No, we have fabricators, and Kato is one of the places where you can fabricate
Musa
from.
Bode.
Yes, Musa Bode. But also in Inaro we have Namarere, where we have engineers who can fabricate such. So you have, when you have your beans, first of all, we have already extracted beans. This is how they can look like. But before you go into the process of removing the excess juice contained, you have to sort out the diseased beans, like these ones. This is diseased. It will first of all affect the quality of the final product. The ones that turn brown are diseased. Yes, they are diseased.
This one is diseased.
Yes, exactly.
This one is diseased.
Even that one. But we also have other things that we remove, like this. This is a placenta. We have also to remove it. Because it doesn't contribute to the weight, and even when the buyers are taking it, they sort it out. So it is a waste of time. So you put your beans here and you extract the juice.
The juice,
yes. I expect you to ask me, what do you do with the juice?
I want to know what happens with the juice, but later on you seem like you're taking me there later.
Exactly. So let's keep it at that point. Now let's assume you have finished extracting your juice.
And I have now the beans.
Yes. This cocoa undergoes a process called fermentation.
For how long?
For how long? I'm heading there. Yes. Now, fermentation is the process of covering these cocoa beans in an airtight environment, and you also put a cushion to make sure you retain the temperature within. Yes, because this cocoa has natural microorganisms which help to eat away that sugar layer. That sugar layer, as it is feeding on it, there is something that is happening. The microorganisms are producing substrates which produce the characteristic chocolate flavor. So this is where the chocolate flavor
stage 2
is developed. Yes.
So this is the Juakali way of doing things.
This is the Juakali way of doing things. Now, interestingly, we are going to be showing you 3 methods. The local method which farmers have been practicing, and then we will show you also the improved methods. What we have here is cocoa which has been already pre-fermented, and we are just showing you how to make the hips. If you're doing this, you have to know a few factors.
Like?
You need a place that is clean. As you can see our environment.
It's a very clean place.
Yes. Besides the place being clean, you need a shelter to shield this cocoa from the harsh environment, like the rains, the direct sunlight. Because when you have rains, the sugar which is contained here, which the microorganisms feed on, it will be diluted by the rain. And also the sun will dry this sugar, so microorganisms will not have enough time to yes, to turn these sugars into the desirable substrates which contribute to the flavor. Yes. Now, when you are doing this fermentation, this is called the heap fermentation. It's done by small-scale farmers who harvest around 40 kilograms. They can use this. You can just make something, and then you use these bananas to cover. But when you're using the bananas, you can see we have quite a number of bananas. You need about six banana leaves. Okay. And also you put this gunny bag if you have it. But if you don't have this gunny bag, you need to use a polythene. Yes. Why are we doing that? We need to retain the temperatures inside. Yep. Once you don't retain the temperatures, you don't have conducive environment for the microorganisms which help in the fermentation and the subsequent flavor development. So that is what happens here. But as we are here, there is something very important that I had skipped. We do fermentation from for about 6 to 80 days.
6 to 80 days.
6 to 80 days.
Why?
Why the 6 to 80 days? These microorganisms, they change with time. And I want to explain that. When you have brought your fresh beans, you put them there for 24 hours. After the 24 hours, you need to come and turn, what we call mixing. During the mixing, you're helping in aeration. Yes. When there is aeration, the microorganisms also change. You know, they progressively change.
They evolve.
They evolve. Yes. If you do not do that, your cocoa will instead rot. So you have to change.
So how many times once a day?
Not once a day, 24 hours. 24 hours, that is like 2 days. When you have just put there, you cover, you leave for 2 days. Now, after the 2 days, you start changing after 1 day. Yes, but as you're changing, you monitor the temperature. And you also do a bean cut test. When this cocoa is changing, it turns from white to brown.
To brown, yes.
But you need also to look at the color of the bean inside. It turns from purple to brown. When it turns to brown, it means that the cocoa has fermented well. Maybe we can cut a fresh one and you see the color of the bean inside.
The changing.
Yes, the change. Can you keep these ones here? Are you seeing that change?
Oh yeah,
this is purple and this is brown.
Brown, yes.
Yes. This is an indication that your fermentation has gone on well. Yes. Also another thing you can do as a farmer, you can bring close to the nose.
And you smell?
And you smell.
Let me just do that. Oh yeah, we're getting there.
Yes. And you smell. Now, when it is still here, it has a pungent smell.
Yeah,
meaning that there that there are some acids being produced. But there is a stage where we remove the acids. Okay. And I will explain that. Now we have known the process of fermentation. But I want us to introduce us to other fermentation methods. That is called the heap. The other fermentation method we can use is called the boxy fermentation.
The box fermentation.
Yes, as Nakori, we have come up with this innovation. This we call it the single box. Yes, single fermentation box. It is also good for small-scale farmers. Why did we innovate this? We don't want people to keep wasting away the bananas.
Oh, yes.
Imagine every time you harvest,
they harvest. Yes.
Every fortnight they harvest cocoa. So imagine every fortnight you're cutting down the banana. Yes. Yeah, but with this single box, you can put your cocoa here. This can take around 40 to 60 kilograms. And it can retain the temperatures that are required, which you can also get from that one. Yes. And this is still for the small-scale farmers. Okay. And for the case of tanning, you don't mix with hands. Here we have this innovation, the hand crank.
It's easy.
The farmer turns here.
But still, to get the scent, you have to dip your fingers in there to get it.
To get the scent, yes, you can pick from here and then you smell. You also pick one and you do the cut test as we showed the other side. Okay. Yes. Now, we also have big-scale farmers.
Industrial.
People who have around 50 acres. They can use these kind of boxes. These boxes can take around 500 kilograms to a ton. Yes, to a ton. Now, the small-scale farmers, they can't ferment from here.
True.
Why they can't ferment from here? To generate the heat and to help fermentation go on well, you need volumes that fit within the container you're going to use. But for small-scale farmers who have around 50 to 60 kilograms, they can't use. So we encourage them to either try the single box or they do that box. But very important, you have to do fermentation from a well-sheltered place.
Where rain cannot disturb. And
where rain cannot disturb, yes. Now, you know, in Uganda, our president is always telling us to look into value addition.
Value addition.
Yes. When these farmers finished fermenting, they go to dry. And when you dry, we encourage you to do slow drying.
Okay.
It would be good to use a dryer which is sheltered from direct heat.
Sun,
yes. Why is that important? Because remember, we came with acids in the beans. It has that pungent smell.
True.
But when you do the slow drying, the acids reduce.
Reduce?
Yes. And
so how long does one have to dry?
You dry for about 5 to 10 days, depending on the weather and also the drying system you're using. Yes. You can use a tarpaulin. You can also use a solar dryer, as we'll be seeing later. Yes. Now, these beans, when you smell them, they have a fresh chocolate scent. Yes.
They do.
And you can see the color also.
But they are hard.
Yeah, they have to be hard because you have to dry to a moisture content of 70%.
Whoa.
So 70% is not a joke.
So I see they already dried, the dry cocoa.
Yeah,
beans.
they already dried.
So
this is the point.
If I buy them, what can I use them for at home?
Exactly, that's where I want to head now. Thanks for leading me there. These ones, when a farmer takes to the buyer, they give him around close to 7,000 to 8,000, depending on the ongoing market.
Okay.
Yes, this one's
market
per
price.
kilo. Now, in Uganda, that's why I'm talking about value addition. We are losing a lot of money. We sell this one, yes, 7,000. We sell this one to people out, and after they make the cocoa powder, which they sell back to us, and we use in the confectionaries and the likes.
Chocolates and the likes.
Yes, chocolates. And they also extract cocoa butter.
From the beans?
From the beans. This cocoa butter is an intermediary product for the cosmetic industry, but also for the baker and the likes. So what are we saying as research? What have we innovated? We have extracted the cocoa butter and we have been able to produce lip balms. Yes, these lip balms can help to keep your lips moist.
Moist, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But we are also using the butter to make the lotion.
Made in Uganda?
Made in Uganda.
Are you for real? Product of Naro, and have you tested them? Are they already on the market? Can I access them as a Ugandan?
Currently, we are doing clinical tests to make sure that it doesn't have an adverse effect on the skin of the user.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, and very soon we'll be rolling it out. But as you know, Naro, we are doing research. So these are prototypes, and any person who can help us to commercialize them, we are open, because this is research.
That is yes. I'm seeing wine here. You're skipping wine, Mulina.
Yes, intentionally. Intentionally. If you remember how we say the juice we get from there.
Yes, from the beans at the first point.
At the first point. We have been able to make wine from the cocoa. And we have to tell farmers it is possible. Yes. Now, someone can ask, is it commercialable? Is it viable commercially?
Can it be scaled up?
Yes, it is. Now, you can imagine from every kilo of cocoa beans, a kilogram of cocoa beans, you get 200 liters.
Wow.
Those are not liters. Those will be milliliters.
Yeah,
yes.
I was trying to cut.
Yes, exactly, because the other one would be so much. But you have 20%
of this.
Of every kilogram. 20% is juice. 20% is juice.
Is it non-alcoholic or it is alcoholic?
It's alcoholic.
Okay.
Yes. Because we are telling you can make wine which is alcoholic. Yeah. So the juice you get from here, why do you have to waste it? Why throw it away? You can use it to make the wine. And how you can do the wines, we are showing you here a fermentation tank. Okay. This is a fermentation tank where you can put your juice after making some ratios of the mixes. You put the yeast, you also dilute, of course, with the water, and maybe achieve the right sugar levels, and then you keep your wine here for about 1 to 2 months when it is fermenting. After it will be ready, you can also make a customized wine. You put your other ingredients which make your wine special or a specialty for your customers.
Wow.
And then you have your wine. Here you'll be earning twice.
Yep.
You get money from the beans,
From the beans,
but also the juice. You're not destroying the environment.
from the wine.
You're getting wine.
Well, that is Mr. Malindwa Joseph, who happens to be a food scientist here at NACRI. Listen, if you're one of those Ugandans who love to actually tap into the opportunities that be this crop, we have understood you can have it for over 15 years. I really want to thank all of you who have been a part of this conversation. Thank you so much. But don't just stop about this. Be a part of the conversation. Follow NACRI and narrow. These are innovations and additions we need to add to our, our business. But not only that, the agriculture. Great thanks to our sponsors. That is a Bank of Uganda, Stanbic Bank, NSSF, and the Chinese Embassy. Not forgetting our partners, and that is the NMG that covers the Daily Monitor. We have KFM, we have Dembe FM, we have Spark TV. Not forgetting NTV and Narrow. I'm Andrew Chamagero, Ndimuntuawansi, but listen, one thing we have to get from these farm clinics, not just to have a good rapport with the scientists and going around the farms. Let's get active. COVID has challenged us. This program today, I challenge you, do something. Get into cocoa and become rich. Have a lovely evening. Asanteni, asanteni.